All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at how true resilience actually comes from curating our inner life, rather than desperately trying to control the external chaos around us. I mean, we live in a world that is constantly demanding our attention, right? It pulls us in a million different directions and throws these totally unpredictable challenges our way. But what if the secret to navigating all of this isn't about managing the outside world at all, but rather mastering the world inside of us? Today, we are unpacking a really powerful set of ideas drawn from ancient Stoic philosophy, modern psychology, and some incredible historical examples of just sheer resilience. You probably heard this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, but what's fascinating here is that she isn't just making some polite snub at gossip. She's actually providing a super demanding map for our inner life and where we put our attention. Take a really close look at the word discuss. In this context, it doesn't just mean the literal words we say out loud at a dinner party. It means what we dwell on. It's what we return to over and over and over again in our own heads. It's literally a hierarchy of attention. Those who focus on ideas are living within their own power, while those who fixate on random events or the behavior of other people have essentially just handed over the keys to their inner life to the outside world. So, I want you to ask yourself this directly, because where your mind wanders when it has absolutely nothing else to do is a highly reliable measure of who you are. Seriously, think about it. When you're sitting in traffic, or waiting in line for coffee, or just lying in bed before sleep, what is your default setting? Are you rehashing some minor slight from a coworker? Are you endlessly doom scrolling through news of events you literally can't control? Or are you wrestling with an idea, a principle, or figuring out a way to improve yourself? Answering this honestly is the absolute first step in taking back control of your inner landscape. Okay, moving to section 1, the villain's second act, adversity doesn't check your schedule. Let's see how this ties into the harsh reality of life's unpredictability. The author Stephen Pressfield points out something amazing about stories like The Godfather. The villain totally dominates the second act. The hero can only react and react and react again. The villain in our lives is this uncontrollable force. Maybe it's a sudden illness, a profound loss, or a blatant injustice that completely blows up your carefully laid plans. The villain runs the second act, and just like a hero in a movie, you don't get to choose the timing or the terrain of the difficulty. You only get to choose how you react when it suddenly kicks your door down. Because the villain, as we all know, absolutely does not consult your calendar before showing up. So how do we actually deal with this? Look at these 4 steps of the fear framework. Naval Ravikant advises us to accept, which is that absolutely crucial third step. Now, it's really easy to misread acceptance as just passive resignation, like some kind of spiritual shrug, right? But in the Stoic sense, it isn't passive at all. It acts as the necessary doorway to clear action. Because think about it, you simply cannot navigate a tricky situation if you're too busy fighting with reality about whether the situation should even exist in the first place. You have to face it, explore it, accept it, and only then can you truly respond. Which brings us to section 2, building the inner citadel, Epictetus and the dichotomy of control. The main goal here is establishing what the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius famously called the inner citadel, a governing space inside of you totally untouched by circumstance. And this brilliantly illustrates the philosopher Epictetus's entire worldview, the dichotomy of control. Notice the stark division here. On one side, you have the things actually in our power, our opinions, our desires, and our choices. On the other side, the things completely not in our power, our reputation, our fortune, and what other people do. If you focus your energy on that uncontrollable side, you are essentially handing over the keys to your inner life to the outside world. You make your peace dependent on a universe that is just inherently unpredictable. Your inner citadel has to be built entirely out of the raw materials on that left side, the things within your power. To see what this looks like tested at the absolute highest possible stakes, look at the timeline of civil rights pioneer James Meredith. This man faced down a violent mob, judicial obstruction, and just horrific institutional hatred simply to exercise his right to exist in a university library. And on the specific night that the National Guard was literally attempting to restore order to a campus torn apart by rioters throwing firebombs, where was James Meredith? He was asleep, peacefully sleeping in his dorm room. How on earth is that even possible? Well, his secret to sleeping through a violent riot was a hardcore Stoic technique. He surrendered his life in his own mind first. He had already imagined himself dead, and what that meant was the mob had absolutely nothing left to threaten him with. He'd accepted the absolute worst-case possibility so completely that it just entirely lost its power over him. He wasn't looking out the window, watching the crowd to calibrate his own courage. He was enacting an idea, justice, from deep within his own inner citadel. Section 3. Becoming your own friend. The pivot from defense to offense. Now we're shifting gears from playing defense to playing offense. looking at the Roman philosopher Seneca's beautiful realization that philosophical progress is really just about becoming a friend to yourself. So, what does it actually mean to be a friend to yourself? Well, a person who achieves this exhibits a few very distinct traits. They maintain stability because their entire sense of self doesn't ride on the accuracy of the crowd's perceptions. You aren't desperate for approval, right? Because a true friend doesn't just abandon you the second the crowd turns. You aren't cruel because you don't belittle a friend just to feel better about yourself. And you can actually sit in solitude without going crazy with anxiety because, well, a friend is good company. Now, Epictetus drops a quick reality check here. Absolutely no one perfectly arrives at this ideal state of being the ultimate wise sage all the time. But as Saint Jerome's maxim perfectly captures, it is all about actively inclining yourself in that direction. It's about the incremental forming and reforming of the self every single day. The goal isn't flawless perfection. The goal is relentless, gentle progress toward the good. On to Section 4, the clarity of enough, frugality and the things that compound. Let's look at how this inner clarity actually shows up in a physical world by examining the really fascinating paradox of extreme wealth paired with extreme frugality. Get a load of this number, $31,500. Warren Buffett, literally one of the wealthiest humans in history, still lives in the exact same modest house in Omaha that he bought way back in 1958 for exactly this amount. And similarly, check out this staggering sum. $94 million. NBA superstar Kawhi Leonard kept driving his beat-up 1997 Chevy Tahoe even after signing a contract for that exact massive amount. So why do they do this? The Roman statesman Cato the Elder completely nails the answer right here. Nothing is cheap if it is superfluous. Superfluous basically just means unnecessary to the life you actually love. You see, these aren't habits of deprivation. They're the habits of people whose attention is highly organized around ideas and their interior life, meaning they don't need fancy luxury items to confirm their status to the crowd, because the crowd's confirmation is totally irrelevant to their metric of success. If you haven't decided what you actually love, literally everything starts to look necessary. Which brings us to Section 5, the bubbling fountain, replenishing the source from within. As we start to wrap things up, let's think about Marcus Aurelius's brilliant metaphor of the internal fountain. Think about it. A reservoir only holds what was poured into it, and it naturally diminishes every time you use it. But a fountain? A fountain constantly replenishes itself from deep below. It just keeps giving, as long as the source remains open. So what actually opens up that underground source? It's sustained interior work. It's actively refusing to let the villain dictate your responses. It's focusing on ideas over people, truly accepting what you cannot change, facing your fears head-on rather than running away, and practicing frugality just to maintain that crisp mental clarity. This is the daily practice of reforming the self that keeps your inner fountain flowing strong. But here is a total curveball for you. The Stoic inner citadel isn't just some abstract mental exercise. Look at these numbers, 4, 8, and 12. Renowned family therapist Virginia Satir prescribed exactly this many daily hugs. 4 just for basic survival, 8 for maintenance, and 12 for actual growth. This just proves how profoundly connected the mind and body really are. That unshakable fountain Marcus Aurelius talks about is fed by heavy, rigorous philosophy, sure, but it's also fed by a good night's sleep, warmth, physical touch, and the quiet, daily accumulation of just ordinary human kindness. I mean, you simply cannot build a strong inner citadel on a foundation of exhaustion and isolation. And so, as we end this explainer, it really all comes down to a choice. The ultimate quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by the interior strength with which you meet those events. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as you step back into the chaos of the world. Are you going to continue to be a reservoir, constantly drained by every uncontrollable event and loud opinion around you? Or are you going to put in the daily reps to open up that unshakable fountain within? The choice is entirely in your power.